Welcome, friends. Welcome to today's Reconsider It live stream. Best live stream you're going to see all day. At this time, I am experimenting with this. At this time, I'm experimenting with this vertical live rather than a musical live. Normally I do the music lives. I do my live looping and some rapping sometimes too. Do my live looping on my synth stuff. But this will be a discussion-based stream where I will discuss stuff. In particular, I have chosen a topic that I often think about, and I will offer you, for your benefit, offer you some insights on that you can add to if you'd like, if you are here with us live and you want to participate in the chat, or if you're watching this after the live stream and you want to add your thoughts in the comments. That's what this insight or insights, we'll see where the conversation goes. That's what this is for, just for your, let's say, intellectual gnawing upon and ultimately benefiting from. You'll incorporate this into your thought processes. This will enhance and augment your ways of understanding things on the topic of communication. Hooray! Communication. So that's what we're going to talk about today. What is communication? What's the nature of communication? How does it occur? Why do miscommunications occur? This sort of thing. I bring this up because I was listening to a discussion earlier today where there was a lot of, let's say, consternation, a lot of perhaps maybe frustration, if you could go that far. But I'm like, oh, if only we could just, if only people could just, if only we would just, this sort of thing. Why can't people just? And there was a lot of assumptions around, it seemed to me, a lot of discussions around communications, why miscommunications occur. So that's why I picked that topic to muse upon. I see Jody is with us in the chat. Hello, welcome. Jody says, I like your videos. That's nice. I appreciate your liking. I like you liking my videos. We have a mutual liking happening at this time regarding you liking my videos. By the way, speaking of my videos, if you hear in the background music that's playing, this comes from a live stream of mine, one of my unspoken or instrumental live streams, where I normally do my music with my live looping and such in the synthesizer. So I have that going in the background, just some instrumental music of mine, formally stating that as well for copyright reasons. This is my own music playing. So this topic of communication, my starting point, my launch pad for this is dispelling my own misunderstanding of what communication is and how miscommunications occur. I often would, throughout my life, and currently still do, find myself in a position where I'm like, oh, if only I could just clarify this. Let me say this more clearly so that there isn't a miscommunication that occurs. But inevitably, miscommunications still occur. So what's the deal with that? Why do they occur? So what is communication in the first place? Can we really talk about concepts and ideas and how to solve problems? Can we really talk amongst ourselves? Is communication between two people or among a group of people, is that possible? Is it possible to take a message and send it to someone else, and then they receive that message as you sent it, as though it were an object that you sent in the mail? Here, I'm going to say words to you, and those words will, go through the air auditorily and land in your eardrums, or you're communicating via text message or email or something along these lines. So they'll be sent through there. So you will receive the message I sent to you. And people have miscommunications that occur. I see Diana and Lizzie are with us. Woo! Welcome, you made it. This is good. So people have, myself included, past me included, and myself still, have this idea of like, why on earth did a miscommunication occur? I felt I was so clear about that. How could I possibly been clearer? And before it escalates to the level of frustration or consternation or anything like that, the following may be useful to you. I find this useful. This insight about how, just what is communication in the first place, what's realistic to expect, and why it's not such a big deal when not that it's not such a big deal when miscommunications can occur, because that can still be logistically problematic if there's important miscommunications that occur. John says, are we saying it is an enunciation issue? I would agree that's a variable. So it's like a multivariable problem going on when it comes to communication as a topic. So yes, I would agree enunciation is certainly an issue, certainly verbally. So here's the analogy. As I say, that this is what I find personally illuminating. In computer engineering, there's a topic of drivers. If you have a background in computer engineering, you may already know what I'm talking about, and you may have an inkling about where I'm going with this. If you don't know what drivers are, like a computer driver, if you're not sure what that is, a computer driver is just, it tells the piece of hardware how to send signals and how the operating system should interpret those signals from the piece of hardware. You get, this signal of ones and zeros, and that means that the M key, the letter M on the keyboard was pressed. How to interpret a signal from the hardware. That's what a driver is. How two pieces of hardware can communicate in some sense like this. It's about that communication in the computer engineering context. So anyway, there's this concept of drivers. And if you get a new keyboard, or you get a new mouse, or you get anything, maybe a new controller, a video game controller, there has to be a way for the operating system to understand every time you press a button what it means. And so it has to have a corresponding driver. In some cases, you may need to manually install a driver, but the driver has to be there however it gets there. So this idea of a driver, that's the main thing that I'm bringing into the insight that I personally find illuminating, and you might find illuminating as well. So drivers. Something like that exists for people, for humans. It's not just, like, the idea of communication is not just, do you speak the same language? You're listening to me speak English right now, and you understand English? Cool. We speak the same language. But there's still more to communication. There's other layers to communication beyond just the language. In the same way that if you take a new piece of hardware, in order for your operating system to understand it, it needs to have more than just the ability to swap electrons. It needs to know how to interpret those electrons. So in the concept of human communication, there is some concept of a driver. And this is where it seems to me that I observe people get into frustration at this point. We're both speaking English. Why don't you understand what I'm saying? Because there's an aspect of a driver in communication, in human communication. And that's what allows you to have slang. That's what allows you to make some kind of cultural reference. I could say something like, hey, you really saw the writing on the wall. You have some vague grasp of what I mean by writing on the wall. That's a cultural reference. There isn't literally a wall with literally writing on it. So drivers provide this kind of function. There's some kind of like communication driver or whatever you might call it that provides this function that facilitates communication in a more, let's say, like expedited manner, quicker. It makes it easier and smoother, quicker to have communication with people. If you have a close knit group of people, like your, closest friends and family members, you have a lot of things that you can just almost like glance at someone and you know what each other's thinking, kind of thing. That is like, you have had a lot of shared experiences that facilitate that. Those shared experiences you've had with these close ties, it facilitates you being able to just sort of glance at each other and know what each other means or is thinking, or what have you. It's through this shared experience of some sort, or prior discussions, or what have you. And this driver concept that I'm bringing up in human communication, it is somehow related to experiences. What are your past experiences? What are your cultural experiences? What have you read similar books? Did you have a similar upbringing? Did you grow up in a similar part of the country? Did you grow up in the same country? All of these things inform how you're capable of receiving signals from someone. You could say, English at me, but how I, feel what you mean is informed by like every second I've existed into the past. And so, if you take this to its extreme, of course, it means everyone's an individual. And so, of course, there will be inevitably some diverging of these drivers, these means of interpreting words, interpreting their meaning beyond just their, literal meaning. So each individual has their own unique driver lexicon, so to speak. So that would seem to suggest that there's always going to be miscommunications between any two people. One person tries to send a signal meaning something. The other person receives it and says, "Oh, I'm going to interpret it in this way. That's not what you meant." Not necessarily intentionally, just through their lens. There's their driver. So is that inevitable? My point is yes. that was the point of this subject, to get to this point, to say that miscommunications are inevitable. And when elevated to the level of like culture wars and that kind of stuff, which was what I was listening to earlier, that brought this up for me. On that topic, I guess maybe it's a pipe dream. I find it a little disheartening to see people arguing over the meaning of words, because that reflects a difference in drivers, as I'm discussing here on this stream. The means by which you interpret what a word means. And when disagreements escalate, it's always such a shame when it's really based on, not misinterpreting, but differently interpreting what a given word means. I see this going on in the chat. I'm going to get caught up in the chat here. I see John says, "Oh, this world needs a hero" is here. Yeah, my man. John says, talk about enunciation or poor communication skills. John says, "I have a background in culinary arts and hospitality management." There's a lot of subtlety in that. You bringing a lot of subtlety here. John says, "We have front servers, back servers, house servers. And the difference is that the front servers are the waiters The back area are the bus individuals, the orders. And the house servers are the actual computer network servers. Oh, wow. Oh, okay. Joel is with us. Joel, my man. Joel says there's driver cleanup. Very symbolic. Yeah, Joel knows what I'm talking about when it comes to this driver stuff. Joel has a very technical background. It would be nice to be able to uninstall certain experiences. Oh man, I wasn't even intending the conversation to go in that direction. But that's exactly why I started the live. Because I want to hear your thoughts as well. I mean, when I start a live like this, and I tend to experiment more with this. There's many people coming in the chat right now who know me from the music side of things. I do have one of my instrumental lives playing in the background. You can probably hear it a little bit. But I see some people are coming through who know me from the music side. You're still going to get music streams. That's going to continue. I'm just experimenting with this other format, this vertical format, discussion-based format. And yeah, the reason I brought this topic to you is to hear your thoughts. So I like what Joel's saying about it would be so dope if you had the ability to uninstall certain experiences. Yeah, wouldn't it? Wouldn't it? You know, that's the challenge with your creative and imaginatory, your creative and imaginatory capacities, your ability to imagine, and your creativity. Those are your means by which you can navigate into new experiences. And that's good, but that is simply adding new experiences. You still have all the old experiences. So yeah, as Joel says, it would be nice if there was a a clean, organic, safe manner with zero unintended side effects to uninstall. That'd be dope. That'd be dope. Al True is with us. Yeah. Al True says, I resonate with that so deeply. I tend to withdraw and not communicate at all. Yeah. Yeah, I heard you on that. Yeah, sometimes I even get straight up nonverbal. When that happens, when I have a nonverbal experience, that happens when I get overwhelmed. I get overwhelmed with my attempts to anticipate what I could or could not say to navigate the situation and have it still yield an acceptable outcome. And I get overwhelmed with my capacity to navigate that. Oh, if I say this, oh, if I say that, if I say that. And I can get overwhelmed with that. So yeah, I hear you on the withdrawing and not communicating. Whether that's as literal as I'm talking about, getting straight up literally nonverbal, or if it's more of a symbolic, sort of like, you know, become withdrawn, even if you can still, you know, pay for your food at the grocery store. I see Nick is with us. Yeah. Another one of our friends from the music side of things. Nick says, only problem with that kind of installer. See, Nick has a technical background. Joel and Nick are going to just hit it off right here. This is going to be really good. I'm not going to necessarily give voice to Nick's story here. Nick says he is playing Call of Duty, but he's listening. Nice, that's good. Trader of the Living is with us as well. Yeah. Welcome. Welcome. By the way, what is your feedback for me in terms of the level of the music right now? I'm using a very low technology setup. I'm just streaming directly from my phone. And I have the phone kind of positioned close-ish to my laptop speakers while I replay one of my old instrumental streams. That's the level of the technology for this stream right now. So this very much is a technical test, in addition to testing out what do you think of this subject matter. I'm personally interested in these kinds of philosophical discussions, but I'm much more interested in what you're interested in, beyond what I want. I want to know what you would like to get out of this. I see my man Viral is with us. Yes. Yeah. Joel says the audio is sounding perfect. Good. Good. Al True says the volume is nice. It's not too loud. Okay, good. I did a technical I did a technical test earlier that I tried to, do different volume levels. This one seemed okay-ish. Good. Good. Joel says, yeah, it's a nice little background loop. Good, 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 good. This motivates me to maybe do more of these instrumental live streams because I only did 5 of them according to my playlist here. If you didn't know, I do make playlists for all of my live streams. So I've got the unspoken playlist. That's what I'm listening to now, my instrumentals, and I've only got 5. I should probably do some more instrumental live streams because this is handy. It's handy to have like an hour, a little over an hour of just some instrumental looping and keyboard or synth, I guess. I never connected the word synth or synthesizer with what a synthesizer is. I always imagined like, you know, those synthesizers. My people who are here in the chat, you may be able to help me translate what I'm trying to say here. But what are those kinds of synths where, you're always moving around all the plugs and there's like, a whole wall of plugs and you're moving the cable in and out of plug. I don't even know what that's called. That kind of synthesizer. Or somebody like sitting there literally synthesizing sound waves. I never really connected um, the word synth or synthesizer until recently, until I started getting in with the hardware jam community and the associated communities that are tangential to that. But everybody who's so into synth and stuff, now I get it. But uh, 3 years ago, if you came to me and you're like, hey man, draw me a picture of a synthesizer. I don't know if I would have come up with like a keyboard, which is what I would do nowadays. A keyboard with a bunch of buttons to adjust the various whatever it is that they are. What do you got? Various input and output effects like reverb and what have you. Filters, a mixer, oscillators, all the various buttons and knobs that a synthesizer has. I'm getting caught up on the chat here. Still just reading that the music levels are good. Trader to Living says the music levels are fine for a talking stream. Good, 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 good. I'm also interested in just like what is your feedback about doing a talking stream like this? As I say, I'm personally interested. I'm interested in what you are interested in. And it doesn't strictly have to be some kind of philosophy thing. That's just my first, random guess at what might be interesting. I see Al True in the chat says, I would love to chat philosophy and whatnot. Feels good to connect with people who are free thinking and not plugged into consumerism. Oh man, yeah. Oof. Those are 2 big additional topics we could just go straight into. The idea of being free thinking, like what is that? And the idea of consumerism and being plugged into it. Let's say that's like being plugged into consumerism is the second topic. Modular. Trader Living and Viral say modular spaghetti. Okay, that's what thank you. They're clarifying from earlier when I asked about the kind of synthesizer where you're like moving the plug in and all the like a whole wall of possible things. I don't have any idea what's going on with those. I see videos of people using that stuff, and I'm like, what is going on? What on earth? It's like I hear there are some changes happening, but so that's closer to what I would have thought um, if I heard the word synthesizer just a couple years ago, even. So I've learned a lot. I've learned a lot. Viral says electronic pasta. Yeah, that's good. Pasta, spaghetti. I'm with it. I'm with it. You ever had um? You ever had spaghetti squash? I just had some spaghetti squash the other night. I had a very good experience where I was generously given some very nourishing and delicious food for a meal, a shared meal. It was a very good time. And it was a spaghetti squash based meal, which is why I bring it up now. It was, I don't know, spaghetti squash. And if you've not had spaghetti squash before, it looks like spaghetti visually, but it is in fact squash. So I had like a base of like it was spaghetti, but it's actually squash. And then we had some ground turkey that was cooked in a skillet. Ground turkey and then some marinara. It was dope. It was dope. It was real good. So anyway, I bring that up because Viral's talking about modular spaghetti and pasta. I'm not much of a pasta person. I'm not much of a carb, you know. I mean, I guess I shouldn't say that because I do. I'm not gonna like take a stand against carbs. I personally don't have any severe digestive issues like that, but it is better. My health generally is better. My health, my energy levels, usually, as a broad generalization, are better if I minimize um, my carb intake. I don't have to totally cut it out. I don't have that kind of digestive need, but there's a strong correlation between minimizing my carb intake and my good feeling. And I understand that there are many people who have a similar experience when they monitor that. Faye Guitar is with us. Yeah. Yeah, that's good. Trader of the Living continues the conversation about synths from earlier. It says the original synths were modular. See, that's where, okay, good. So I'm beginning to feel very validated. Thank you, Traitor to the Living. I'm very excited about this. Because as I was saying earlier, that's like, if someone used the word synthesizer to me just a couple years ago, 2-3 years ago, I would have thought some kind of like big complicated piece of machinery or something that, I don't even know what the user interface before it was. But as Trader of the Living is saying, um, the original synths were in fact modular, as we were talking about with the cables and everything. The modular spaghetti, which was very different from spaghetti squash, even though spaghetti squash at least has the potential to be very dope, as I had a taste of a dopely prepared meal that was based on spaghetti squash. Anyway, Trader Living says original synths are modular. Keyboards replace that for a long time. Okay, so this is where what is it? What was I operating off of? Some kind of like shared downloaded driver for interpreting what a synth is. I had never had direct experience with synths through keyboards, but through not being in any way part of that world, there was such like a, what would you say, such a lack of exposure to synthesizers in my life that um, it's like a desolate wasteland of examples. I never absorbed any examples of synths with um, keyboards. I'm very confident that I've seen them, but I would have always just called them keyboards. So it's some kind of connection between those terms that I had not had. Keyboards replaced that for a long time, says Trader Living. It's come back in the last 20 years. Oh, with modular, you're saying. Modular's been making a comeback. I believe you. In the last 20 years, in the newer Eurorack format. I do not know what that is. I see people use that word Eurorack a lot in the synth world, in the synth space, but I do not have any idea what that is. I am like at the, I was gonna say bottom of the barrel, but what's the back of the class? I don't know what the word would be here. The most rudimentary and basic position. That's what I'm at when it comes to like the synth world. I know so little, the hardware world. I have my loopers. My regulars know my setup, where I have two RC505 loop stations. I also have a Hydrasynth Explorer, a little, I think it's 37 key. I had to look it up the other day. I believe it's a 37 key synth. But that's about it. You know, I've only had the synth for a little under. No, I guess it's been a little over 6 months that I've had my synth. And I'm really just playing around, just like putzing around with stuff. I don't really have any idea what I'm doing with it. So that's fun. And it's awesome when things sound good. I'm like, oh, we got a good sound out of this. That's nice. But I don't necessarily know how to reproduce it on command. Here, do that again on short notice and efficiently. And I'd be like, I don't know. I can randomly do absolute chaos guided by pure chance and then see what happens. How does that sound? I'm still getting caught up on the chat here. I see Tone Smith is with us. Yeah. As is White Noise. My people are in the house. Al True says a novice. Yeah, it's synthesizer stuff. Yeah, using a synthesizer, I'm like the most beginnerist person. And just hardware in general. I don't even know anything. You know what else I don't know anything about? All of the people here who know me from the music space. You know that I have my 3 pieces of gear, the 2 loopers and the synth. Okay, we're good on that. I don't know anything else, so I don't know any. I don't even know like pedals. I don't know any other little additional pieces of gear. I'm interested though, because that was, if I had not gotten the loopers that I have, the Boss RC505 loopers, which are really, you know, they have a lot built into them. They have all the sound effects and everything built into them. If I had not gotten those, then I would have had to take the route of doing like many individual units of here's a looper and here's, you know, some kind of input effect and here's something that I can make a bass line with all through my voice. And I'd have to have a lot of pieces of gear all stapled together. But I don't. And by the way, that's why I didn't do it sooner. Because that overwhelmed me. That was too many possible variables. So I never took action on that. But as soon as I, you know, I could no longer deny that the RC505 existed, and I just had to go get it because it facilitated all of that easily. It made it very easy for me to just like, here, I can beatbox, I can make a bass line, I can do, you know, whatever I was going to do. I didn't have to worry about having all of these pieces of gear that I had to link up in every way. So that's what made me ultimately take action, the simplicity of it. I forget how I got on that topic. Oh, we were talking about different pieces of gear and how I don't know any. Why don't you know any? The reason I don't know any is I never took action before I got the 505 loopers. I never had any experience with any other pieces of gear. And since I got the RC 505 loopers, I haven't really had a need for gear because they have so many effects built into them. So so I don't know anything about little pieces of gear that I might actually benefit a lot from. I'm interested, but I don't really have the interest to like experiment and drop, hundreds or thousands of dollars. Did I like this or not? Maybe like, I'd rather just get what I'm pretty confident I want. I guess I could rent. It's possible to rent. Maybe I could do that. I would like to try other loopers. That'd be fun. Other loopers that have their own effects in them. I'm still getting caught up on the chat here. Joel says, what does Joel say? Might I ask what iconic songs would be iconic songs for synths versus iconic songs for keyboards? Oh, that is definitely a question for just the chat as a whole. So most of the people in the chat right now are musicians, are hardware people. So anyone in the chat who's checking out what Joel is saying, he said this a couple minutes ago. I'm just very fast at keeping up with the chat. I'm very speedy and, pretty much in real time. There's very little lag, very little delay, very little latency. But to repeat what Joel's saying, and please give Joel your feedback on this. He's saying he's looking for iconic songs, but iconic for a synth, like go listen to this if you want to check out some fly synth stuff. What's iconic for a synth versus iconic for a keyboard? Iconic songs. Go listen to this song if you want something iconic for a synth or iconic for a keyboard. I see with us right now, Trusto! Echo, echo, echo. As well as Moses! Echo, 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 echo. Trader Living is coming through in the chat, even long before 2 minutes ago, before I had to invite anyone. Trader Living is on it. That's good. I'm with it. I like it. What does he say? Trader Living says, keyboards are synths. They just have normalized connections. Whoa, these are words. Modular synths, you have to make the connections yourself. Ah, yes. That's the difference. Okay. That's a good difference to draw. Your expertise, like, again, this is why I decided to do a stream. Because having you bring your thoughts makes this into a more dynamic intelligence. There is there's an intelligence. When we come together and talk about stuff, and you share your thoughts, and you can see thoughts that other people share, we form a type of intelligence that is transcendental to any one of us. We form an intelligence that is necessarily, how shall I phrase this? It necessarily has a higher capacity than any of us. And so it's awesome. So as Trader Living adds, he has this clarification here and then says that's the difference. I'm on board with like stopping right there at that's the difference, and I'm not even saying the rest of what's there because we don't have to talk about that part. You should add more. You should say stuff. I see Tone has made a clarification, or a suggestion rather, for the... Was that iconic for a synth? Tone says the CS80. I don't know what that is. I assume that is a synth. It's an iconic song. And the song is Christmas Time, Paul McCartney. The one you have definitely heard. If you are part of the, I guess maybe the English speaking world. Maybe that's the limit. But if you are within the English speaking world, you have definitely heard that song. Christmas Time by Paul McCartney. Oh, there's a lot of more suggestions coming in. This is awesome. This is a good resource. Even if you're joining us after the chat, or after the live rather, and you're just listening along, you can look at the chat replay. There are some nice suggestions coming in. All True is adding Baba O'Reilly. I hope I pronounced that correctly. Baba O'Reilly by The Who. You know, can you believe this? I don't know if I've ever heard a single song by The Who. Can you take that? Is that like, are you able to handle that? Is that too intense? I'm not sure if that's, you know, if you could process that and still maintain your breathing without any tension in it. I probably have heard songs by The Who and I just don't know. But I don't know. Yeah, I don't think I've ever heard an album by The Who. Sweet Dreams Are Made of This, or is it this or these? Autobahn, Kraftwerk. Certainly Kraftwerk would have a ton of stuff. I am not a Kraftwerk expert. I have heard Kraftwerk, but I am not a Kraftwerk expert. In the 90s, I was a teenager. The 1990s, by the way, to be clear. Just to clarify. It's the only motivation I have. There are no ulterior motives. Just to be clear. The only reason I'm doing it is to be clear. There's no other hidden ulterior motives. But in the 90s, I used to listen to, I'm thinking about like what would qualify as synthy stuff. I used to listen to Frontline Assembly. You ever heard of them? Frontline Assembly. A lot of KMFDM. Some people hear me say that and they're like, yes, and they give me a high five. Other people hear me say that and it becomes the object of their derision, which I don't understand, but okay. That's all right. Nick is chiming in. Frontline Assembly, KMFDM. Yeah, I know Nick. Nick, you and I believe, have a similar overlap. Or like, what else? What other like industrial? You know, if I didn't listen to a lot of Ministry, but when Ministry came out, that was in my world. Skinny Puppy, Front 242. I gotta go over to all my CDs over there. My stacks of what, a couple hundred? A bunch of other artists. Very likely you would be able to list a lot of artists from the 90s. And I would say, oh yeah, that. Oh, totally, of course. Oh man. I'm still getting caught up on the chat. Man, I am so timely. This is like the most timely real-time chat response experience that you've ever had. Trader Living said he's going to nerd out on synths. Dude, let's get you started. This is the place to get you started. Basically every hit from the 90s, or the 80s rather, sorry. Tone says the CS80, as I was saying earlier that I didn't know what it was, is a giant Yamaha synth that Kent Spong is always tinkling. Oh, yes. If you're not familiar with Kent Spong, he has a channel. Kent hosts pub discussion arenas, where he's fixing synthesizers, which is really interesting because there's a lot to know, and word on the street is that Kent is a unique expert on this, and he just streams himself fixing synths, but other people are hanging out, other synth people are hanging, and they just talk about whatever synthesizer stuff or other things. So that's Kent's channel, but he has a giant Yamaha synth. Okay, I'm with it. Tone Smith says "Jump" by Van Halen. Oh man, I'm with it. Jump. Whew. It's synth heavy, but it's also heavy metal. I'm with it. I'm with it. I saw goodness. I saw a show. Oh, dang. I really want to be able to tell you what this is. Let's see if I can look this up. This is it. Yeah, this is it. You ever heard of Lindsay Sterling? She's a violinist, but she has like a whole like metal band supporting her, and it's mostly instrumental. But I saw her live show. That was awesome. That was very skilled from a not just a musician perspective, but from the perspective of like powerful performer with presence, taking up space, like really writing something original. It was dope. It was dope. It was like an hour or however long she was on stage. It was really good. So that was Lindsay Sterling. Worth checking out her content, even if you don't see her live show. I thought of it because Tone brought up the idea of metal. And I was like, oh yeah, last night I saw this dope show. Tone says, I have got to listen to a more Who, because they are the best. Are you sure they're the best? I thought Tool was the best. That was always my understanding of things. The Tool is the greatest band in the history of the universe. But it sounds like maybe the Who is? Altru is upset that I didn't listen to the Who, that I'm not familiar with the Who at all. I couldn't list a single thing that the Who has written, even though chances are decent that if you were to show me one of the one of the big famous successful songs by the Who, that I might be like, oh, that song, yeah, oh, I didn't realize. Like, there's very likely that we could probably multiple such circumstances, but I can't list any off the top of my head. Chat went off the screen. I'm getting caught up still. Nick says, going back to Frontline Assembly, he says, I saw Frontline Assembly recently with Ministry. Do you mean live? You saw them live? You saw Frontline Assembly live with Ministry? Or do you mean like they recently did a collaboration together or something? Trader Living also says Nine Inch Nails. Yep, that's another one. Yep. Nine Inch Nails is like, it's so much better than I realized at first. Nine Inch Nails is so much higher quality than I realized at first. Back in the 90s, that's when they released, Pretty Hate Machine, their first album, I didn't really get into until much later. But when they released Broken, that's when I was like, what's this? Broken is a short, I guess technically 8-song EP of pretty experimental, sometimes some drony stuff in there. After Broken, they released Downward Spiral. And at the time, back in the, 93 or something that he released that? Or 94, whenever that album came out. Downward Spiral by Nine Inch Nails. At the time, I was just like, yeah, this is really rocking. But now, I go back and listen to it now. I'm like, whoa, this is so well done. That's a really good album. It's not just a good collection of songs. It's a good album, and it is each of the songs is good. It's well produced. I have very I have very limited criticism of Nine Inch Nails, and it is not in the realm of the production, the like composition, the sound engineering. Like Nine Inch Nails released that, what is it, 40 songs? That 4-part album called Ghosts. You ever heard that? If you've not heard that, Ghosts by Nine Inch Nails, that's worth a listen. That's just a lot of like sound textures, you know. They give you a couple minutes at a time of just like a soundscape, and it's really dope. There's a lot of variety in it. Of course, it all has like a Nine Inch Nails, industrially tone, but there's a lot of variety in that space on their album Ghosts. Really dope. Really dope. Still getting caught up on the chat here. Altru says, "Oh my god, my heart skipped a beat. I can't believe you haven't heard the Who." Yeah, I'm sorry to break it to you. See, this ties into the topic that I made the stream for. The idea of communication. Like, we assume other people, like Altru, you might have made some kind of reference to the Who that I wouldn't have picked up on. And it's because my driver doesn't have the means by which to decipher what your driver encrypted. And then you send a bunch of signals about the Who, and I get it. I'm like, I don't know what the hell this is. Because I haven't seen the Who. So I don't have the means by which to decipher Who-based references. Altru says, it's the same with me and Stevie Wonder. Man, I wish I was more familiar with Stevie Wonder, but there's nothing I could do about that. I'm totally powerless. There's no way that I could possibly become more familiar with the works of Stevie Wonder. It's impossible. My hands are tied. There's nothing I can do. Like, what can I do? What can I do? How can I actually become more familiar with the works of Stevie Wonder? I mean, it's impossible. There's nothing I can do. There's nothing. I wish I was more familiar with the works of Stevie Wonder. I wish. But my hands are tied. I'm stuck in this place where I can just wish. There's nothing I can do about it. You know it's another artist? This one is going to be great. Now, for everybody, I expected this is going to get some reactions in the chat. This one is going to get some reactions. It's another artist who I'm not familiar with. Not, more than zero. I've heard more than zero of his body of work. But I'm just not like intimately familiar that I just like lived and breathed it for my whole life. So I only like kind of know a little of this artist, which is going to get a reaction here. I'm looking forward to what kind of reaction. It might even get a reaction in the comments after the stream. I'm expecting a little bit of a reaction, or maybe a giant tidal wave of a reaction in the live chat. But maybe even, maybe. It's a gamble, maybe. Comments afterward. So who it is? Who is this artist I'm talking about, who I also have minimal exposure to? You ready for this? Dun, 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 dun. Prince. Eh? Can you believe that? I have like very, very minimal exposure to Prince. I think I have Purple Rain. I've heard some, but not. What does he have, like hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of songs or something? I don't know I don't know his whole catalog. Yes, Moser's coming through. All right, we got the first reactions coming in. Yes, I knew it. I knew it. I knew it. I knew it. Oh, this is good. Okay, there's still more chat I need to get caught up on from earlier, but I see that Moser and Trusto have a very strong and powerful reaction to the fact that I don't know a lot of Prince. Tone says, I think Prince is awesome, but I don't know his catalog well. Tone Prince included the word also. He said, I also, which I like. I appreciate the solidarity. And then Trader Living says, man, did you grow up on some kind of commune? I did not. But I also did not grow up, in Minneapolis. Is that where he's from? He's from Minneapolis. And I was just gonna say, all true. If she's still here, she's in Minneapolis. And she says, if you can believe it, I've also had minimal exposure to Prince. Wow. All true. I was expecting that you were going to have a strong reaction because you're from the Twin Cities. So I was really expecting you to come through with a very strong reaction. But you did buy some Laserdisc. What was it? Oh, a 3D. I thought you were about a Laserdisc. The last 3 disc, not the Laserdisc. I was like, what? Laserdisc? You're making a Laserdisc? Moser says, I'm very happy to subscribe to this channel now. That's good. Please like and subscribe. Tone says, look at it this way. It was either Prince or Robert Plant who really did it for you. Listen, can you believe this? I also don't know a lot of Robert Plant. Or Led Zeppelin in general. I have a lot of Led Zeppelin albums. I'm just not familiar with them. Pink Floyd I'm familiar with from that era. Moser once again coming through with a strong reaction to the fact that I'm not familiar with it. I'm not familiar with Led Zeppelin. Never heard them, but they're not like buried in my subconscious. Trusto says, keep going with this. This is good. Trader Living says, this is very exciting. I love learning about a different perspective. And now I see Moser is wondering, is there any way that you could tie this back to the theme of the live stream? The answer is yes. That's what this live stream is about. Trader Lev says, keep it up. Altru says we have to make Recon a mixtape. That'd be cool. Yeah, make me a mixtape of your favorite. Make me a playlist of your favorite Prince and Led Zeppelin and The Who and who else came up? Was there another one, or was it just those 3? Prince, Led Zeppelin, and The Who. Yeah. So anyway, what this amounts to is that I have my lexicon, my driver for interpreting, for hearing music is different from yours. My driver for creating music is different from yours. I don't have those as strong of an influence in me. It's not part of how I create. At least not in a core central manner. That's what I mean with all of these. The Who is back to like nothing. I don't know if I've heard any. I'm sure I have. Prince, I've heard some. Led Zeppelin, I have a bunch of their albums. I have like 8 or 9 of their albums. But they're just not embedded in my subconscious. Tone Smith says, me 100% only telling truths to the camera right now has me dying. Oh, Stevie Wonder. Well, I didn't say I'm not familiar with Stevie Wonder. That was something that All True said earlier. I just said I wish I were more familiar with Stevie Wonder. What I know of Stevie Wonder is really impressive and inspired. I like it. I like it when you have like a real, um, like a genuine artist who brings like proper talent and creativity and originality. You know, they have their own passion, they have their own style. We use terms like few and far between for that. So I always like getting that when you can have a few and far between type of person. I think Stevie Wonder was one of those. I mean, as was Prince. That's like the high level. Prince was a very high level of that, the one of a kind type of stuff. Trusto says I need some milk. I don't think I need any milk, but thank you. Oh, True says Robert Plant, bro. Yeah. Tone Smith says, and that makes for some unique music for sure. Yeah, my influences are totally different. My influences were primarily 90s based or 80s based. 80s and 90s. Those are my strongest influences. I do have some other influences from like, the 2000s or whatever, but by that point I was, you know, formed. My driver was formed. All True says, when it comes to Stevie Wonder, I know he is blind, and yet he plays the piano. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I'm with you. I'm with you in not knowing and not understanding that. We're on the same page. We coexist in solidarity, which is good. That's really good. Friends, you know what else is really good? This stream. This live stream. This is really good. I did this discussion based vertical stream on the recommendation of Trusto and Moser. They had recommended that I experiment with this. I heard from a few other people. I think actually maybe Trader Living, you might have been one of the people I heard from as well, saying that you have a different experience regarding your music streams versus these more discussion based vertical streams. So I'm experimenting. This one went pretty well. I am going to continue to experiment with these. We'll see how they go. I would encourage you to come back. If you are watching after the stream, I encourage you to come join us during the stream. These would be the most discussion based of all of my live streams. This is like 100% discussion based. I probably will continue to have my instrumental live stream playing in the background. We actually just reached the end of the one I was playing here. If you liked the music you were hearing, if it was audible, I'm not even sure how audible the music was. This was my unspoken live stream from August 15th, 2025. It was episode 4, unspoken episode 4. If you like that, you can listen. You can go back and listen to that. In any case, my friends, thank you for joining us today. I hope to see you in the next of these discussion-based live streams. I look forward to your contributions, your thoughts, your responses in the chat as we build this transcendent intelligence together and make it even more higher capacity than any of us individually. It's very good stuff. Until then, my friends, please have a very good rest of your day today. Please let the rest of your day today bring you all manner of goodness and blessing. And I will see you in the next Reconsider It live stream.